So, welcome to our world. Our world this evening is the Cotswolds, in a house that can really only, I don't know if you can hear the echo in here, it can really only be described as a mansion, because house sitting has become part of our journey, and we're not always in mansions, far from it, but that is where we are today with a gorgeous dog called Timber, who we very much hope won't be joining us as part of this evening. If he does, something's gone horribly wrong. And so we have been holding these storytelling events for a little while, and we've been traveling now for a year. And I think our trip can rightfully be described as quite a conscious process of stepping away from stuff. We both wanted to go on a journey, not just with our lives, with the work, and you'll hear some of the roots of that tonight. But it's been this conscious process of stepping away and seeing what emerges. And after a year of kind of having stepped away from what feels like security, and in terms of doing the work, what feels like the priorities, or at least the way that we were taught to make a difference. After a year of doing that, we've been going around the UK, but not just the UK. We're recently back from a trip to the USA. We've been visiting survivor organizations, and we've been specifically asking the question, how do people heal from the injustices caused by sexual harm and relationship abuse? We've been holding Circle, which is a way of holding groups, to help with our understanding of that. And we've been working towards some kind of public ceremony around healing from injustice, that we actually did when we were in America recently. So this is the kind of work we've been doing whilst we've been traveling, and of course we've been learning a lot. And we realized it was time to start sharing some of the lessons with other people. But we both knew instantly this was not going to be like a bullet point PowerPoint presentation. We're still figuring this out, and it's been a big journey. So our response to the challenge of how do you share something that's so rich and so beautiful and so profound, and that you're still figuring it out yourself in a way that stands a chance of making sense? And our response to that challenge has been to write a creative piece. So we've honed our skills as creative writers. We want to share the stories that we've been crafting as we travel. Some poems that have been part of this journey too. We both have a deep faith in the creative's arts abilities to take us where other forms of communication sometimes fail. So the invitation tonight is to sit back, to relax, to let this wash over you, and see what sticks and see what doesn't.
Great. A very big welcome to all of you here. I'm smiling, not at the faces, but I know some of these faces, so that's great. Yeah, you're really warmly invited to come on this journey with us tonight. We'd love to share that with you. So as Nina says, listen and see what resonates with you, notice what stays. And at the end of this reading, we'll open up the space for questions and reflections as well. We'd love to talk with you. And our hope is really that these words honor the journey that we're on. And we want to thank you for honoring the story so far by listening to it tonight.
Thanks, Sin. I'm going to open us up by reading the poem that we've been reading at the start of every circle that we've held on healing from injustice. This is When Giving Is All We Have by Alberto Rios. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We've been better for it. We've been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet, big though small, diamond in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn, and the pages too, but we read this book anyway over and again. Giving is first and every time, hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue and I gave you yellow. Together, we are simple green. You gave me what you did not have and I gave you what I had to give. Together, we made something greater from the difference.
An invitation. They say that healing is a journey, and I couldn't agree more. What I also know to be true is that journeying is healing, and this trip is a mirror to that. As Nina and I continue this trip, or better, this voyage across the UK, visiting survivor organizations, holding circle, and asking how do people heal from injustice, something beautiful is happening. The beauty is in seeing what happens when we gather to heal, when we hold space for the parts of ourselves and others that need to be held and need to be healed, when we're silent together, when for a moment we bravely and even defiantly take our eyes off the systems that feel large and largely broken, and we cast our gaze to the center of the fires that we stoke together, and we nod to each other as we acknowledge our arrival here. This is what it feels like to be doing what we're doing right now, and today you are warmly invited. If someone were to ask me if I'm a storyteller, I'd most probably say no. If someone were to ask me if I have stories to tell, the answer is yes. I find myself here because of that yes.
Walking the talk. This journey was born with walking boots on, the South Downs Way, March 2021. The march when we emerged from a year of lockdowns, emerging from what felt like the longest of winters. We were so grateful to get through that year without grief or economic disaster, but we needed to get out. We needed airing, and we needed to move. So we walked the South Downs Way. It's a 100 miles path from Eastbourne to Winchester, and we did it as day trips, staying at home, eventually staying with family who lived nearer the other end of the route. We took rest days. We took patkos, which is Afrikaans for you will not be hungry on this walk. One foot in front of the other. We had lunch on the horizon and now we're here. One foot in front of the other. We talk, adding our voices to the rhythm of our strides. We talk as we always have done, in circles, excitedly, often imagining what if, one foot in front of the other. Neither of us could say when the moment was. It was like a blister. There was a moment when its presence was clearly felt, but in that moment, you're just noticing something that's been there for some time, perhaps all along. Let's do this. It feels so good to be outside. And look at the conversations we're having, the stuff that's just emerging as part of this walking process. This feels healthy and healing and powerful. Let's make this our work. What does activism with walking boots on look like?
Thinking in metaphor. I think in metaphor. It helps me to find the simplicity in the things that I tend to make more complex than they really need to be. Most often I use food metaphors. My brain is definitely located in my gut. But for this one, I'm using the metaphor of being a farmer. It helps me to explain how I'm experiencing this journey, what my participation in it is, what I show up for, what I need to leave alone in order for it to grow, and what I can and cannot attribute to myself. This journey, this ground we are working, is full of potential. It's vast, it's beautifully located. It requires my attention and my effort. I plow, I add to the ground the things I think will make for fertile soil. The ground is kind that way. It accepts my crap as nourishment too. I can plant seeds here. The trick is, once planted, I need to let it be. If I keep ploughing and digging, the seeds will not have the stillness that they require to do that magical thing that they do. That thing that is not my doing, but I can recognize my participation in it. I can water the land, but most likely the rain will sometimes say, "Thank you, but no need for that. Leave it alone." It requires my awareness for when I am needed and when what is needed from me is to let it be. And then come the fruits, the harvest that I benefit from, the fruits that I can share. I did not make that deliciously sweet apple. In fact, I have no idea exactly how that apple was made. It is really some natural miracle by which we live daily. But I did participate. I can talk about my process of participating in relationship with the magic that happens for these delicious apples to grow. And this story is about that participation.
Circle. Have a good circle, she smiles at me. A smile I see again on the screen in a few moments. A smile that will be shared with others, but I'll feel like it's for me. I feel into my body. Am I ready? A short moment. Will they arrive? They do. We all sit with our devices, connected across space, connected in circle. Circle is a way of holding groups. Its beauty is in its simplicity. In our modern world where we're so full of agendas, where we like to share our opinions, solve problems and hold court, this simplicity is profound. Circle helps me bring all of myself to a group. It helps my intellectual side calm down and know that it is not the only show in town. It helps the parts of me that have been conditioned by my society to behave in certain ways in groups release their grip. When I'm able to do this, I can have a different kind of encounter with others. We've been holding circle about healing from the injustices caused by sexual harm and relationship abuse. It's been a journey. I remember our first one. I was settled and nervous. Different parts of me were expressing their different levels of comfort. The part of me that had trained as a therapist and is a professional in the sexual violence space was very aware of all of the things that could go wrong. People being triggered left, right, and center, safeguarding issues, unboundaried disclosures, energies that can't be held by the group. The part of me that was familiar with Circle was more grounded. Circle isn't about having all of the answers, taking all the responsibility, or fixing anything. It's about trust. Trusting yourself, trusting the group, trusting that the process can hold it all. Trusting the invitation you've put out there and people's ability to respond to that invitation with grace and curiosity. Trusting that whoever shows up and whatever comes up is as it should be. The other trust is the one that people are placing in you, attending a space not knowing what on earth a circle is and probably hoping it's not too weird, trusting an unfamiliar setting, trusting people you haven't met. There is a story about trusting strangers on this road we're on, a powerful story that I've found very healing.
In Circle, we're invited to allow silence, our own and that of the group. Silence in a world full of noise. And in that silence, I find the quieter parts of myself, the wiser parts that are more in touch and need more time and space to be able to express themselves. Here, silence is part of the conversation. In Circle, I'll listen to what you say with that silence inside of me, and I know you'll do the same for me. I'm really listening because I'm not preparing a response, something that may take me a lifetime of practice in this world where the habit of responding is so firmly ingrained. You see, I have no point to make here because we're not doing that dance here. Instead, I'm feeling, noticing what emerges in me, but knowing that we can just sit. Having heard your truth and knowing you heard mine, we can honor the paths we're on. We can recognize the wisdom we hold as we navigate our own way. And we can know that this is not our job to walk the path for each other, but rather with each other. We can bear witness to each other. We can honor each other. And in doing so, we are fully participating. Circle gives us a way of remembering our wisdom, and therein lies the magic.
I bet you think this song is about you. There have been moments on my path before this where I felt close to making a difference in the way I'd been taught to. The version of this story where you have faith in a system that could deliver on its core purpose if it was improved. I made a pilot video about rape myths to be played to jurors before trial. At the time, that felt important. I've been driven through New York City on a blue light run just to get to a meeting with senior police officials on time. At the time, that felt exciting. I was commissioned to deliver an ambitious national program of training for prosecutors and police officers. At the time, that felt overdue, but still important. The video wasn't used. They didn't like the idea of introducing expert testimony via the back door. They wanted judges to talk about psychology to jurors instead. I did end up doing some work with American colleagues, but like most of the gigs I'm offered, it was a 90-minute job, and you can't do this work in 90 minutes and expect much to change. The national training with prosecutors was cancelled just as it started, along with the prosecution in Crown Prosecution Service. If you do what I do for a living, it's always your job to be several steps ahead of the organisations you're working with. But sometimes you realise you're not just ahead, you're on a different path. So as we gather here to talk about justice, I feel like I need to talk about my relationship with the criminal justice system. It used to be one of those relationships where I did all of the running around and they did just enough to keep me close, but never enough to make me feel secure. With the caveats that there are some good people in our broken systems who, for some heroic reason, are able to stick it out and do what they can with what they have. Dear criminal justice system, this new chapter in my life that is so completely about justice is not about you. It's not that I don't care anymore, it's that I care too much. I'm no longer able to numb reality with a hope of who you could become if only you'd change. I no longer feel responsible for playing my part in your change when you seem so set on a course that I can't follow you down. I've been working on myself, healing, growing, and now gloriously I feel everything. And when I put this heart, this life, this mind, this passion somewhere, I need to make sure I place them somewhere they can flourish, somewhere I can stretch out and grow without limits, somewhere I can laugh and cry and know that all of me is welcome. I've found the community I want to serve. I want to have the most impact I can with the time and talent I have. I want to do something big, even if it's small. I want to push beyond my own imagination and make a difference. I don't need to read one more report, see one more statistic, attend one more meeting to know that you will not offer that to me. So I'm holding on to my desire for change with everything I have, and I place that energy outside of you. I'll still do the work. I'm happy to work with your investigators, your lawyers, your judges. It's just that when I do so, I no longer believe that I'm creating the systemic changes I want to see. Now, when I do this work, my hope is that I can help create the smaller changes that can make a big difference in the lives of the individuals you come into contact with. A more compassionate encounter with a police officer, a more targeted question to a suspect. But if I spent the rest of my life doing this, I wouldn't expect to change much. The professional in me can stay. She's good at what she does. But the activist, she's long gone. You may be relieved, it's true. I'm not going to give you a hard time anymore. I'm not even following you on Twitter. But I wouldn't sit too easy. You see, this is like some revamped version of the Emperor's New Clothes. Like the Naked Emperor, you're a performance piece that only works as long as we play along. And as a performance piece, I have to say, you're really good at it. You're failing victims of sexual offences 99% of the time, and yet we all talk about improving you. Improving, not tearing you down. Improving, not replacing you with something entirely different. It's impressive. I guess we can't imagine what we'd do if we weren't trying to improve you. And that's my point. I don't want to play along anymore, reinforcing your importance by always fixing you with my gaze. I realize I need to stretch my imagination. I realize that there are questions I've never asked. I realize my path has always been about justice, but you've written yourself out of that storyline. The performance has slipped in my eyes and I can't see it any differently. So thank you. I feel lighter, liberated, excited. What are those questions I've never asked?
"17 boxes. 17 boxes. 4 for the kitchen. We like to cook, so we travel with our own larder, cans, spices, pulses, dried, pickled, vacuum packed. 3 for clothes. They are big boxes because we don't want to get sick of what we're wearing, but we do. Thank God we can share. 4 for work. We're traveling with a brick backdrop, so far unused, a green screen, so far unused, and everything you need to host a game show, just in case. 1 for the bathroom, 1 for medicines, supplements, and homeopathy, because one of us would rattle if you picked her up and shook her. 1 is lovingly called our lounge box. How do you feel at home anywhere without some of your books, your stones, your candles? 1 for cleaning and laundry stuff, because we're traveling, we're not on holiday. 1 craft box, because creativity is our collective superpower and it comes along for the ride. 1 box is like our garage. It has everything to keep our van clean. It has all we need for a braai. It has our picnic blanket and extension cable. 17 boxes, carried in and out of over a dozen homes so far. It's our personal weight training program.
Noticing the signs. He really is letting me fly this thing. I thought I'd just get to hold the controls for a few brief moments, but here I am, in control. I'm surprised how relaxed I feel. I'm not sure Cynthia feels quite so relaxed in the back, but it's not so different from driving a car, except we're hundreds of feet in the air, and I don't have to follow a predefined route. I can just head for the horizon. How do you know where the other planes are? I ask. You just look for them and try not to hit them, he said, which seemed very sensible. Where would you like to go? He asked me. It's your plane. We've been staying in Tamworth. We noticed the planes flying past the house we're staying in, little planes, and I smiled, noticing them in a different way because the house that we had just come from was for a woman who'd flown planes for British Airways for 30 years. Imagine that, being a female pilot in the 1990s. What stories must be there? At the same time, I'd also been reading Sharon Blackie, who learnt to fly planes too. You notice the coincidence on this path, and I no longer read it as coincidence. On this path, everything feels like a sign. Not a sign to seal your fate, but an invitation from the universe. This has become a journey full of invitation. As is often the case, it was Cynthia who encouraged the path to adventure. I can always find reasons not to, in this case financial, like why would we spend that on me? So here we are, up in the air, and I can go anywhere. For an hour, the skies of the Midlands are mine. Do you remember that place we stumbled upon when we left Buxton last year? It was like a hidden walker's paradise. Hills, paths, a National Trust cafe. I point us north and off we go, in search of hills from the air. We find it. From the sky, we see a distinctive hill, the National Trust building, and a path through a valley. We see stepping stones across a stream. It's enticing. We see walkers, and I guess they see us and hear us. Just over 24 hours later, we're on the ground, walking that path, noticing the odd plane in the air and smiling at it all. Interconnected paths. All of it some glorious kind of stepping stone process, one leading to the other. You just didn't know it at the time. That's what this story is about, really. Process. When I made more space in my life, I made room for things to emerge, and I had the time, the energy, and the inclination to notice them. Now, I simply follow what I notice if my body says yes. So far, it's made for the most glorious learning adventure.
The stones we carry with us, the heavy weight of silent impact, shared but isolated, screams of rage held in a vacuum. These are the stones we carry with us. They are the weight of shame, burdens that don't belong to us, but have been here so long they've become part of our gravity. So foolish, so naive to have believed ourselves safe. Illusions of justice shattered on the pavement where people walk past, unseeing. These stones speak as we carry them. We've sat with others around this fire many times. We've all added our voices to the flames, and now they mingle, gathering energy, rising like the heat. Questions emerge from these flames, questions that belong to all of us and none of us.
Why is my truth not enough?
What can I do with my grief?
What did any of us do to deserve this?
Where can I place this growing sense of anger that I know is not good for me?
Why am I left feeling worthless?
How can I trust others again?
How can a system that's supposed to help you simply erase you?
Where else can I turn to get justice?
Why do I feel so alone?
Alone, but far from being the only one. This is a huge community, bonded by shared experience, separated by isolation and shame. How do we come together to heal?
One foot in front of the other. It will feel small at first, but trust the process.
What if no one comes?
One foot in front of the other, whether there is no one at your side or you're surrounded by hundreds.
How will we know what to do?
One foot in front of the other. You are weavers. You will weave the threads you've already been given. You do not need to create this story. You just need to pull it together.
Belonging. How can it be that the longer we're on the road, the greater my sense of belonging? It's with beautiful curiosity that I think about this on one of the many new walks we discover on this trip. I could not have predicted the absolute groundedness that big belonging would give me. It makes sense now that we're in it, just like the ocean's water temperature only makes sense to me once I'm in it. It's because the spaces where I find myself belonging, albeit not permanently, have risen in number substantially on this journey. And instead of waiting to return to somewhere so that I belong, I feel like I belong in each and every one of them. They are all different. I like some more than others. They all have something different to offer, and they are all part of the same thing. They are part of this story, all the parts that make up the full picture that's busy taking shape.
Sunrise prayer. The greeting is with a smile, mug of coffee in hand, ever changing but constantly wondrous. You are a fluid form of stability as we travel around the place, and you've taught me that there is an abundance of wonder in every day if I just choose to turn my attention to it. I get up early to turn my attention to you, to start my day with wonder. Thank you. Thank you for all that you give without being asked. I see you. I'm here to honor you. And when I honor you, I bring honor to my life. for I am a part of you.
House sitting. On this trip, we're not sleeping in the van, although we do get asked that question quite often. These bodies and this work require the simple comforts of warmth, bed, space. The search on the usual holiday rental sites is in full swing as we plan the start of our trip and try and figure out how we're going to do it all. Some options don't quite fit into the grooves of this jigsaw that's taking shape. Then the thought of house sitting finds its way to us via a friend and a conversation, and the seed is planted. Interesting idea, and probably something we can only do every now and again between holiday lets, because it may be very complicated. It is not complicated. This world of house sitting, in which we now firmly reside as part of this journey, where strangers can start from a place of trust. Here is my house, my precious furry loves. These are the best places to eat at, to visit. These walks are beautiful. Enjoy yourselves and thank you. Simple comforts grew wings, and we are experiencing others' lives and homes in the most beautiful of ways as we travel across the country, doing our work and house sitting most of the time, making deep and lasting connections along the way, discovering places called Newtile, Plymtree, Lodsworth, search terms I would not have entered into Google. People find joy in sharing, a kind of humble pride in saying, we hope you love it here as much as we do. And it's not transactional, it's rather intimate actually, which fits the grooves of this jigsaw very, very well.
Our furry friends. Nina Cat was my first. She taught me how cats work, which was something that had always been a mystery to me. Then I learnt that not all cats work like Nina.
Sid, the gentle giant who was obsessed with sticks. You did not need a lead when you walked him. He would just constantly return, stick in mouth, ever hopeful that you might throw it this time.
I fell in love with Darcy. It was a soul connection that hasn't gone away. I dreamt of her for ages after we left. Every time we're reunited, we're both very happy to see each other.
Poor Mungo. He was a classic case of the terrier who had not learned how to self-regulate. His tics when he was over-aroused were to suddenly eat the food he'd been ignoring all day, to scratch incessantly, or to hump his big brother's shoulder. Poor boy, he worried.
Hagrid was like a bear. I thought my niece would be able to ride him. Huge, heavy boy bundling towards you, and you just hope he's going to stop before impact.
Hagrid had a brother called Bear, who was a cat, which was really confusing.
Ruby was an old girl who, like every Labrador, only had eyes for food.
Truffle was indeed the best dog in the world.
Benson was a gentle old man who wished he was still small enough to curl up in your lap.
Baz, our very first trip to the emergency vet.
Angus was the protector Cynthia had wanted all her life. Big, strong, at her side. She walked with confidence when he was there.
Bailey was utterly adorable. Love on 4 legs. He didn't care where he was as long as he was next to you.
Luna really attached. By the time we left, it was hard to have a pee without her wanting to be in the room with you.
Sweet, sweet Bertie. His heart was broken with grief when we arrived. He had just lost his Labrador sister, and we were worried that his heart might break again when we left. I know mine did.
These are the animals that we've loved on the road. They've made everywhere we've stayed a home instead of just a house. They've been teachers, and their message has been simple.
Greet everyone as if they are a friend you just haven't met yet.
Get a good amount of sleep, including in the daytime.
Enjoy your food.
Find ways to play with your people.
Never hide your excitement at seeing a friend.
Be an explorer, even if you've walked the same path 1,000 times.
Ask for what you need, but don't hold a grudge if you don't get it.
Cuddle a lot.
And know that life's greatest gift is being connected with others.
Back to the future. Kate Bush is #1 and Top Gun is on at the cinema. And today, millions of women, trans men and non-binary people across the USA can't get a legal abortion. It's 2022, but did someone just turn back the clock? I can feel the temptation to see all of this as a backwards move. I felt that myself too in 2017. I didn't know it at the time, but that's when all of this started for me. It's when I was aware of things unraveling for the first time. A genuine desire for what I'd frame as progress was suddenly halted in its tracks, and a new ideology threw its weight around. It was shocking, and at the time it was surprising. But now, after Brexit, Trump, prosecutions of rape falling off a cliff edge, and so many clear signs of unraveling, I remain constantly shocked but rarely surprised. How do I understand this? I'm living this nomadic lifestyle, one which places me in constant flow and closer to nature. It's not just about where I sleep. It feels like it's about everything. Our journey is circling. We visit and revisit. We return, but we're constantly passing through. We notice a flow and allow ourselves to be taken by it, knowing its power is greater than ours to resist, not that we often want to. If something has unraveled in me, maybe the unraveling has been the illusion of straight lines of certainty, straight lines of progress, straight lines that help you stop looking back at the things you feel you've passed by. In these post-truth days when it feels so hard to find resonance in a world that is polarized, a world that centers the importance of opinion over process, which is something I'll never understand. I'm so grateful to be guided by the wisdom of this journey and of nature, who shows us so clearly. Everything is interconnected and everything moves in cycles. We're not going backwards, but we could wonder, is the season changing? Is this autumn or winter? Has no one taught us how to harvest so that we can make it through the harsher times? Did we abandon our elders, thinking we knew better than them, only to find ourselves searching for wisdom they once held? Do we know not to plant our precious seeds if the timing is not right? If we protect ourselves from the harsher outside world, how will we know when it's spring again if no one's taught us how to look for the signs? Audre Lorde's words echo through the forest. The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. How much of my activism was based on those tools? Was I engineering change, figuring out how to get other people to think and behave in the ways I wanted them to? Was I trying to master them? The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. But might this forest show us the circular path forward? The path where we sense our power, the right time to wait, the right time to act, the right time to enjoy the natural abundance that flows. Timing is everything. Ease over struggle, process over opinion, community over ego, connection and belonging over a world that judges, shames, and isolates. Kate Bush is on the radio and Tom Cruise is on the silver screen. Abortion clinics are closing. The season is changing with the promise that it will change again.
How do people heal from injustice? We're still traveling, both around the UK and with this question. But we've already covered a lot of ground, and we've learned many lessons along the way. We've learned that this question needs more time and energy. We need to start telling the story in more places and in more ways, because it remains one of the biggest untold stories in this space. When we face this question, we may need to exercise muscles we've never used, muscles no one told us about. So we need to go slowly, avoiding the temptation to rush. We need to grow and discover our own answers to this question together.
The together piece is important. Justice is something that should happen in public with others, so we need to open the doors. Too much happens behind those closed doors. Healing happens in community, be that 2 of us or 200 of us. We can gather and we can heal together. There is a simplicity to this work that we've encountered in the circles we've held. Simply coming together with a shared intention is powerful. This simple lesson has encouraged us to build our own ritual around healing from injustice, a ceremony of sorts, a public place for us to gather around an intention. Cornel West said that justice is what love looks like in public. We are stepping towards discovering our own version of this kind of love.
We've learned that power is an essential part of the healing process. People have arrived at our circles asking, what can I get from this? And they've left asking, what can I give? To bear witness, to stand with others through their grief, to not step in and fix things, but to instead honor the journey that someone is on, is an act of generosity. This act makes all of us richer, and it helps us to feel into a form of power we may have forgotten, remembering a power we all have access to, remembering a power that is there in community, waiting for us to connect with it. We've also learned that people can arrive with a resistance to exploring the question of healing from injustice, fearing that perhaps the question itself may be trying to paint silver linings. Does healing from injustice mean that we're letting perpetrators, systems, and the people who've let us down get away with it? Does healing mean forgetting, letting go? Far from it. When we heal, we are stronger. When we heal in community, we're connected. Far from abandoning any activist aspirations we may have, this is a means of powering up, of helping ourselves and each other rise, so that we can meet those challenges from our most powerful, connected, and creative place. So it's no surprise that the question people often leave circle with is one that creates swells in our gut. What will our activism look like when it comes from this powerful place?
Mother Tree. I didn't fully feel the absence of elders in my life until they arrived. Like a part of me, perhaps kindly, was protecting me from a loss I didn't know to feel. Now I've steeped myself in this magic, and sitting on the plane flying home from Whidbey Island, a place we lovingly call Narnia, I've never felt so seen and so loved. I smile at life. I've been taught, or rather, I've felt the most powerful political lesson of my life. And it wasn't wrapped up in intellect, insight, or even wisdom. It was simply wrapped in love. To be seen and loved by people who had really worked hard on their ability to see and to love. I feel my roots receiving the nourishment of connection. A deep smile resonates throughout my body. I know what it feels like to be seen and to be loved. It makes me feel like I'm running on a different kind of fuel. I feel powered by a renewable sense of connection instead of trying to top up my tank to cope with the more familiar feelings of isolation and struggle. In the past, I desperately focused on how far my branches could reach, hoping self-care would be sufficient to keep me on my determined path. Now I'm simply feeling the growth and interconnectedness at my roots, and I'm trusting that my branches will grow with ease. I smile down at the master's tools gathering dust at my feet. They feel irrelevant. Oh, patriarchy, no wonder you fear old women so much, taking care to keep them isolated and ridiculed, trying to persuade us there is no power in our own old age, celebrating youthfulness and setting up young people who want change to struggle in competitive isolation, because that's what you've taught them. Patriarchy, you'll frame it as conflict because that's how you like to roll, but it isn't even a battle. My body can tell you, you are no match for the mother tree. The old woman, she's already won. She knows it, you know it, and now I know it too.
A place to scream. Questions rise from the fire. Questions born from stones heavy with the weight of time held, things lost, wounds still open. One question echoes through the lines of my spiral. What can I do with this growing sense of anger that I know is not good for me? What can we do with our anger? I can't think mine away, logic it out of my body. It's not good for me. Do I need to get closer to it or further away? How can there be flow even for this? I'm not looking for silver linings, just a flow that can move it, opening a door so that the draft can carry it away. After a particular circle on anger, I felt a new search. It wasn't in my head, it was in my body. Where is that door for me so the draft can clear the air? And this is how I ended up on a roller coaster. Within reach of where we were staying is Alton Towers. I cannot believe that it is me saying, let's go there. I have a strong fear of heights. I've tried to cure it by jumping out of a plane, standing on a bungee platform with my ankles tied, but I couldn't go through with that, and a few other things which were not kind to my fear. I thought I'd realized by now, wiser with age, right, that I do not need to jump out of planes any longer. I could just accept that my body says no to heights. So why today am I saying, let's go on a roller coaster ride? It's got nothing to do with heights. I've been thinking about anger, and so generously I've heard so many other perspectives as we navigated our way through this topic too, as part of Holding Circle, the Feminist Way, and our journey with Healing Circles Global. I think to scream in community, to be in a place where screaming is accepted and expected, may be a door for me. It's a nice thought, makes sense in my head, but what will my body say? And is it kind to myself? Nemesis, what's yours? That was my first roller coaster ride of the day. I held on and not even for 1 second opened my eyes. I have no idea what that ride really looked like. I only knew my intense fear, my desire for it to be over. I've gone completely silent. I'm so grateful for that photo that showed me what happens to me in those moments. You know, the photo they take on the ride? I'd never seen myself like that, only felt what was true for me. But seeing a photo where I'm so clearly completely absent, I've left and gone somewhere to hide because of fear, because of a lack of feeling safe. Perhaps that was a clever thing to do in the past, during those moments when safety really was not there. But it made me sad now to see this void where I expected to see me. I did not recognize myself, not one bit of that photo looked like me. I would like me back. So whoever took me, just to let you know, I'm coming to get me. On to the second roller coaster ride for the day. Smiler next. I can see Nina wants to know that it really is all okay. Together we trust my yes. I center on my intention for this. This time I'm going as me. I'm going to try to stay present as me. I keep my eyes open for the whole thing. I cannot believe the twists and the turns are even possible. I'm in awe of the science that allows this ride. I'm screaming, but not out of fear. I'm safe. I'm screaming the words, I love this. The door has opened for me. I can feel that draft now, helping to clear the air.
Body choices. It's December and we're close to our first Christmas on the road. I'm reading Richard Wagamee's in bed, his book Embers, which is a series of meditations, thoughts, stuff that emerges to him. It's beautiful. He's talking about the land. He's painting a picture of a relationship, seeing snow, seeing dawn, having a deep relationship with land. I put the book down. I wasn't consciously thinking. My body was moving before conscious me caught up. I was on my phone, Zoopla, looking for rentals near Pitlochry, near the Hermitage, a woods that a friend had recommended we visited, and so we did. And I realized part of me was still there, in those trees, by that river, feeling the vibrations of the waterfall. Those trees had something to tell me, but we were there for just a few short hours. The only thing I heard for sure is, I want to come back here. I hadn't mentioned it to Sin. We had visitors staying with us and we were happily wrapped up in spending time with them. And then we were back on the road the next day, heading south, heading away. But for whatever reason, a part of me was on Zoopla, late at night, looking for rentals in Scotland and finding this amazing place. It was exactly the same rent as we'd been paying in Brighton, except this one came with a tennis court. I noticed myself, and I noticed the thought underlying it all. I want to live in Scotland. It was unexpected, but it felt so resonant, like a body choice, so I knew it was real. I have to say, my coming out process was very similar to this. In just one moment, I realized I was gay, like my head finally caught up with the rest of me, and that was that, done. I turned to Sin and relay what had just happened, how I found myself looking on my phone for properties near Pitlochry. She listened. She cried. She told me her story.
Already wrapped up and waiting downstairs in readiness for Christmas, which is in 3 days' time, is the stocking filler present, the book, The Fish Ladder. I've been excited to give this to Nina for more than a few reasons. And you should know I'm not very good at waiting. I get really excited, so I'm doing well. I'm excited about this small but not yet fully understood meaningful little book because Pitlochry spoke to me when we visited a few weeks ago, and this book was in some way a materialization of that, a kind of output of an energy that was so strong there. One of the things Pitlochry is known for is the fish ladder there, hence the book. The area of Pitlochry spoke to me, and what it said still needed some time to settle and take shape, but I knew this place had meaning, has magnetism, and that we would be back in a significant kind of way. Listening to Nina now talking about this place and her bodily realization, my tears confirmed that we understood the same. We heard the same gong, and I smile cry at the book waiting downstairs like some sort of confirmation, like it already knew then what we'll be discovering together now. I let the realization take the shape of words and loudly say, we're going to live there or thereabouts. I've been waiting to say these words, I realize, a bit like waiting for the right conditions for flight, as they fly out of me with such joy and such clarity. These are the words that have been forming ever since the day we spent there. since the day we hugged a tree, and it felt like a hug when someone welcomes you home. You know, one of those long, stretchy hugs. We got to share that day with our good friend Ushi and her daughter, who came to visit us just for the weekend. And it's no surprise to me that their visit was exactly as it should have been, to point us to exactly the day we had. Moments like these feel like the universe saying, hey, I've got you. And when I'm able to be quiet enough to hear that, it brings a calm and groundedness to me. And I need that right now, to do what we're doing, to carry on, to swim upstream like the salmon do. I love knowing that for the salmon, it's not about this humongous struggle though. It's about finding the undercurrents that flow and take you with ease.
Escape by D.H. Lawrence. When we get out of the glass bottles of our own ego, and when we escape, like squirrels, from turning in the cages of our personality and get into the forest again, we shall shiver with cold and fright, but things will happen to us so that we don't know ourselves. Cool, unlying life will rush in, and passion will make our bodies taut with power. We shall stamp our feet with new power, and old things will fall down. We shall laugh, and institutions will curl up like burnt paper.
Welcome to justice. You are in a woods. You feel the sun breaking through the shade and warming your skin. There's a gentle breeze. You hear the birds singing, and their song draws you to the other sounds of this place. Wind through the leaves, insects, in the distance the sound of a bubbling brook. You walk towards the sound. You are not alone. You have your people by your side, old connections, new ones, ones that are about to happen. You arrive at a series of stepping stones, a pathway over the brook to the other side. On the other side is justice.
The people are moving in turn across the stones. It's your turn. You step, you smile, one foot in front of the other, just like every step so far. You step, one foot in front of the other. These steps are no more and no less than the ones before. You step, smiling at this body that has taken you on this journey. You step down. You are in justice. What do you feel? What do you see? Who is with you? What do you smell? What can you taste? What is this place to you? Here we do not write our pain on stones. Here we do not need to feel the weight of things, but instead the lightness as we let our imagination take flight. Voices rise like the heat of the fire, voices that belong to none of us and all of us. Voices as free, powerful, and transformative as the flames.
Justice to me is peace.
My body just wants to give a deep sigh.
Here I am held.
Here I'm full of joy.
I can feel my innocence again.
Here we can let go of something that was never ours.
I just want to laugh. I want to celebrate.
Here I can feel safety.
Community.
Here we find trust again.
Here we feel validated and seen.
Being here just makes me want to say yes.
Freedom.
Abundance.
Power.
Ease.
It feels like life should be, like it's been there all along.
I believe we can journey to this place together, one foot in front of the other, perhaps discovering that we were there before we arrived.